This is the incredible story of a man that mysteriously went missing years ago, and his younger brother's unbelievable journey to find him decades later. I think I know what happened to my brother. I'm trying to write this in a way so that no one will be able to research and find out who I am, or my brother is. But it's the internet and everyone's a super sleuth. My brother went missing years ago. And when I say missing, I mean that his case was declared one of those creepy unsolved mysteries. It was on the news. I distinctly remember my parents interviewing for the news in our living room. I think I know what happened to him. I was very young when he went missing. I barely remember him, but I do remember that I loved him a lot. He would pull me around our block in a wagon. Most kids his age didn't do that. The days before he disappeared, I remember him staying home and babysitting me. I stayed in my room and played Nintendo 64. Throughout the day, a guy came over. I remember him. He was older, almost our dad's age. My brother made me go into my room whenever I heard the doorbell. Later, after the guy left, my brother would ask me not to say anything about the guy. With my brain only being focused on video games and extra dessert at that age, I agreed. I didn't care, nor did I comprehend the gravity of the situation. The day before he disappeared, I remember the older guy coming over. I was in the kitchen and remember looking up and seeing him kiss my brother. They hugged. They didn't care that I saw them. The older guy waved at me and I waved back. Then I kept watching cartoons. I fell asleep on the couch and woke up to my brother whispering outside our front door, "Don't worry, he's asleep." The older guy said something I couldn't hear. Then my brother said something I couldn't make out. But I made out the words visit them, or maybe he said visit him. Either way, I know the word visit was in his sentence. The man raised his voice and said no. Then I heard plan and city, then I fell asleep again. The next morning, the day he disappeared, my parents were at work. My brother was acting very strangely. I remember he kept checking the clock. In the afternoon, I remember him picking me up and asking me if I wanted to go in the wagon. I was too hooked on Nintendo 64 and I said no. He almost begged me and I said no again. Then he told me he had to run to our neighbor's house for something. I don't even remember what he said. I just said okay. He reminded me to not open the door for anyone, only mum and dad. I shouted at him, okay, because Super Mario was getting on my freaking nerves and he wasn't helping. He gave me a hug and told me he loved me and left. He never came back. All these years, decades later, and I think he was in love with that man. Well, I know he was. The memories randomly came flooding back to me earlier. I'm not quite sure why, but it's been taking over my thoughts lately. I can't sleep because I keep thinking about it. I think my brother left with that man and they ran away together. Or maybe something worse happened, but I don't think that's the case. My freshman year of college, I was part of a sports team that got national recognition. I remember my team's picture was on ESPN with our university's name. A few days later, I got mail at my dorm. It was a gift basket. I thought it was from my parents, so I didn't read the card. I threw it away immediately and ate what was in it, but it was nothing but candy. Nerds, Jolly Ranchers, Tootsie Rolls, and Hershey's Kisses. I called my dad and thanked him for the gift basket, and he said he didn't send one. Neither did mum. Then I got to thinking. All of those candies were what I used to eat as a kid. Literally all I ate for the earliest years of my life were those candies. I tried to find the card, but I couldn't. Then I began to think about how my brother would wheel me in the wagon to the gas station close to our house so that I could get candy after dinner, even though it was a punishable by death no from mum. Months later, during Christmas, I got an unmarked Christmas card. The only thing written on it was a smiley face. Since then, I've heard nothing. No one I know sent that card, and I've never responded. I wonder every day if he's out there. I've never told anyone this. When the police asked me what happened that day, I told them that he went to the neighbors because that's all I remembered. Honestly, it destroyed my parents. My mum became addicted to painkillers, and my dad has had 3 extramarital affairs, which I know this tragedy is no way an excuse to cheat, but it sure didn't help. It has ruined our family, and maybe my brother knows what he did. Maybe he regrets it and knows he can't come back home. But if I could see him today, I would just want to tell him that he is always welcome in my home. I love you so much, brother. We have so much catching up to do. Please come home. Please. Now, that first post was originally posted in February of 2016, but just 2 months later in April, we got our first update. So then, moving on to the next post, and how about this for a title? My parents kept my brother a secret from me. It's 4 p.m. and I'm drunk. These past few weeks have been insane. As you just saw, my brother went missing a long time ago. I thought he ran away from home. Long story short, I got in contact with some detectives that our family has known since my brother went missing. When I started asking questions, they told me that my brother was no longer on any missing persons registry. When I asked what that meant, they told me that he was removed per my parents' request. I asked my parents, my dad actually, and he ignored me. My mum told me my brother is alive and okay as far as she knows. They found my brother years ago, a very, very long time ago, and found out that he was living with another man. He's gay, and it disgusted my parents. He tried reaching out to them. They told him they don't want anything to do with him and that I didn't remember him and wouldn't want to see him. I went ballistic. My parents weren't fazed by it. They sincerely hate my brother for who he is, for being gay. They kept him a secret from me all my frickin' life. My brother missed the birth of his nephew, he missed my wedding, graduations, everything. Just because of my parents. They lied to me. I've been able to get a phone number and contact information from police officers. My brother left it all open in case anyone from our family wanted to contact him. I still can't work up the nerve to call him. The address I have for him is across the frickin' country, but he's alive. My brother is alive. I'm drunk as frick right now because I can't deal with any of this. I haven't talked to my parents in weeks and I never plan on speaking to them again. Not for what they've done to me or my brother. This is real and it happened. It happened. It's happening right now. I don't know how to process this at all. My parents let me believe my brother was dead or kidnapped forever, when in reality he just ran away, and when he wanted to come back, they disowned him. I'm crying right now. How could you do that? Screw you, God. Screw you, Christians and Jesus. I don't even know. I'm so freaking... Oh, I'm sorry. Alright, forgive OP if you will for his blasphemous outburst there, but to be fair, I can understand it. Put yourself in his shoes. That is insane. He's just been told that his own brother, who he believed was dead for years, is still alive, and not only that, isn't a part of his life because of his parents. That is just mental. But as you can tell by the length of this episode, the story does not end there. Let's get into the second update. I met my brother that was missing. Here is an update for all of you. The day after I made my last post, I woke up and called into work. I told my wife, who is essentially my confidant, and I tell her everything, the entire story. She wasn't really surprised. She's not a fan of my parents much. But like many of you, she told me to call the number I was given for my brother immediately. She insisted on it. She took herself and my son out for a day together so that I could be alone to talk with him. I dialed the number about 7 times before I actually pressed the call button. It started ringing and I hung up. Then I got frustrated at myself and called the number back. It rang and I got a voicemail, but it was the automated voice, not anyone else's. I didn't leave a voicemail. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. I called my wife and told her to come home, and she refused until I talked to someone on the other end of that phone. About an hour of pacing and drinking 2 glasses of scotch at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I called the number again. It rang 3 times. I panicked. I hung up. But this time, the number was calling me back. I swear to whatever God above, I thought my heart was going to stop. I almost threw up right there. I answered the call. The first thing I heard on the other end of the line was a guy laughing in the background. There was wind on the phone. The person on the other end was outside and it was windy. Who is this? It was his voice. I knew that voice. It was my freaking brother. My brother who had been gone for my entire life. I covered my mouth with my shaking hands and just sat there. He kept asking me who it was. The guy in the background was trying to talk over him. He hung up on me. I called him back right away and he answered again. Me being a creepy ass, the first thing I said after decades of not seeing him and thinking he was dead, I blurted, "I got your number." He asked me who I was and what I wanted. I said, "It's me." There was a really long pause. I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard him tell someone to turn the radio down and roll the window up. The sound of wind stopped and then he asked me my name. I told him and he said that I was lying. I told him I got his number from the Missing Children's Network and detectives. I heard him gasp. He asked me what color shoelaces he wore to a picnic when we were kids. And I remember my mum getting mad at his orange laces with blue shoes. It was the last time we were together as a family. I could tell he was crying. The first thing he asked me was, "Where are you?" And I told him I lived a few hours away from home. Without hesitating, he told me, "I'm coming." He went straight to the airport without any luggage, bought a plane ticket, and flew straight to me. We stayed on the phone with each other the whole time. When he was walking through the gates, I knew who he was right away. He's middle-aged, salt and pepper hair, muscular. He looks just like our dad, only better. I know if I told him that, that would make him mad. I literally pushed an old lady out of the way and I just hugged him. He's about 2 inches taller than me. He was able to pick me up. He was crying, I was having a breakdown. We went to a bar at the airport. He would not let me out of his sight. He kept holding onto my arm. He kept telling me how unreal it all was. He apologized to me. He kept crying, telling me he felt horrible. I told him to forget everything and tell me about his life. He's married. His husband is a doctor, a pediatric oncologist. They live in the Pacific Northwest. They have 2 children, girls, 12 and 8 years old. He works as a legal consultant and has his own firm. He has an amazing life. He told me that he thought I hated him and wanted nothing to do with him. We sat at the bar for hours, literal hours. I think we sat for about 6 hours before I begged him to come home and meet my wife. We got home and my wife was a mess. She hugged him and insisted he stay with us. At this point, his husband was going insane and kept calling him. He had no idea what was going on. He thought he'd eloped or something. It was crazy for a couple of days until everything was explained and out in the open. My son and my brother were like 2 peas in a pod. Honestly, I never wanted children. My son was an amazing accident, but I'm not good with kids. I'm always afraid I'm going to break them. But my brother is a pro. Kids love him. He stayed with us for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, everything about my life changed. His husband and 2 daughters flew in to stay with us. My brother-in-law and my 2 nieces, my family. They were my family. They are my family. My brother wants my wife and I to move, to be closer to him. My wife is on board. I work as a professor at a university, and I've already started to send out feelers to see if there are any open positions, and I found one that is actually tenured and higher pay. I do not plan on forgiving my parents, but my brother still loves them. He went by their house and knocked on the door. My father shut the door in his face. My mother gave him a hug and told him to take care of himself. Then she shut him out. I can't forgive them for that. I have no reason to stay close to them. I want to be with my family. I want to make up for all the lost time. It's 2 a.m. right now, and I'm drinking a tall glass of scotch and grading papers. My beautiful, wonderful, smart, amazing wife is asleep on the couch. She likes to watch me grade papers. My son is asleep in his room, cuddled up with all the stuffed animals his uncle brought him. And I'm here, so happy, so fulfilled, knowing that my family has grown and doubled in size so suddenly. My heart is happy. I am so happy right now, Reddit. I am so happy. And there we go, guys. Thankfully, this story does have a happy ending. It's just crazy to me that 2 people's homophobia can rip apart 2 brothers like this. It's genuinely insane. Look, it's great that they've reconvened after decades, but the lost time is just in the back of my head. That is mental. Your parents have cost you and your brother to lose decades worth of your relationship so unfairly, just because they're homophobic. It's disgusting. But hey, nonetheless, at least you're back together right now and you do have a relationship and your brother is alive after all. That's pretty insane. Now, before this story ends, thankfully, we have one final update from OP rounding off this entire post. This was posted in November of 2016. My new family and moving forwards. Everything in my life has changed in the last 10 months. Honestly, I don't even know what to say. I want to apologize for neglecting this account. I've been busy. I want to fill you all in on what's been going on in my life. I owe everyone who's messaged and commented that much at the very least. My wife, son, and myself have moved. Not exactly to the same region of the country as my brother and his family, but much closer to him. I got a new job teaching at a new university months ago. While it's not a tenured position, it gives me the option to do research, which is my favorite thing to do. My brother-in-law's family has had many interesting discussions with each other, trying to describe what has happened between my brother and I. They're a pretty open-minded and accepting family, so to hear what we've been through was absolutely shocking to them. My brother never told his husband the truth about his life, only that he didn't speak to his family anymore. Nevertheless, they welcomed me and my family with open arms when we came to visit. It was like we'd always been a part of their family. I feel content knowing that they are my family. So, when my brother ran away with his first boyfriend, he was verging on 18. He's elaborated and told me that the relationship with the man was abusive, and when he tried to leave and return home, our parents wouldn't let him. So he was forced to stay with an abusive man because he had nowhere else to go until he moved away to college. This deepened my anger for my parents, but my brother, still to this day, has this ridiculous sense of hope and optimism. I love that about him because I do not have that. My brother and I are two very different people, but in a way that works well. We reflected on my teenage years, and I filled him in on what happened with my life. My brother is very quiet and observant. He always watches before he intervenes. He's soft-spoken and gently objects when someone says something he disagrees with. He's patient, kind, and optimistic, as I've said. He has a very loving heart, so I think that's why he has an unrelenting faith in our parents. Me, on the other hand, I'm abrasive, impatient, and quick to jump to conclusions. My wife wanted to add, about me, he also doesn't separate laundry, refuses to mop the floors, and can't properly change the oil. Wow, thanks wife. Despite being very different, we have this uncanny ability to be thinking the same thing. Even though we've been separated for several years, we can still give each other a look and know exactly what the other is plotting. My brother has been able to create a spectacular life for himself, all on his own. One thing I struggle with is knowing that he went through more than half of his life by himself, putting himself through college and law school all alone. The more he filled me in about the years away from our parents, the more angry I became. I severed communications with my parents months ago, after the last time I posted on here, and it's done wonders for my own mental health. But then the election happened a few weeks ago. Remember guys, this is all posted in 2016. To sum up in the next couple of paragraphs, OP explains his absolute detest at the election result, which was of course Donald Trump becoming the president, and how it affected his brother's family as well. Of course, his brother and his partner are gay, and OP's wife is in fact a black woman, and they were all devastated. Back to the story now. The day after the election, however, I got a call from my mother. I didn't answer it because I was in class, but she left a voicemail and said she would like to talk at my earliest convenience. I thought on it, still enraged, but I decided to call her back, more out of curiosity than a desire to speak with her. When we began our conversation, she asked how I was doing. My answers were short, one-worded. She jumped right in, and I could tell she was uncomfortable. She apologized, but she apologized only to me. I wasn't fazed by this. I told my mother that she should talk to my brother, and unless she did that, then she need not call me anymore. I told my brother that our mother had called and apologized, and the look on his face was pure happiness. I can't even begin to describe it to you all. It was as if all of his dreams had come true. My brother called our mother, and she, to my surprise, picked up. They had a short conversation, and my brother's happy glow had dimmed somewhat when he got off the phone. He told me that she said that given the election results, she had only wanted to speak to me. I guess alluding to the fact that I'm a white, straight male, the normal son, in an effort to repair the family, and that we all, me, my mum and dad, not my brother, need each other now. She also went on to say that she does not approve of what my brother does, but she had read up on his lifestyle and recommended conversion therapy. My brother ended the call with a very gentle, "I'm sorry mum, but I can't do that. I love you, good night." Oh my goodness. After all these decades, your parents still have these bigoted thoughts. It's unbelievable. I think my brother has been broken these last few weeks, and the hope and optimism that naturally carries him through life has been eradicated. He's buried himself in work and ignores any discussion around our family. My wife is a counsellor, and she normally avoids counselling people she doesn't work with, but she's told me that the only thing I can do for my brother at this point is to be there for him, and to never let him be alone again. Like I said before though, I have a tendency to lash out and be aggressive. Yesterday, while stewing on my own rage about my parents, I called my mother, and when she answered, I just began screaming into the phone. I unleashed a lot of things, and I remember crying while I did so, because I was so enraged. I told her how much she hurt my brother, her son, and how she put his life in danger, all for her ideology. I told her how unfair and upsetting it is that her and my dad would do this to their children, to my brother, how it's criminal and how they should be punished. When I finished screaming, I was going to hang up, because she miraculously hadn't during my 10-minute tirade. But she cut in with a quiet, "He sounds grown." My mother acknowledged my brother's existence with that short sentence. Then she went on with, "I'm so sorry. Let me speak to him, okay?" But I didn't. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. I don't know what she wanted to say, but I'm afraid it's something that could damage my brother further. We are currently staying with him for the Thanksgiving holiday. My view right now is this. My wife and my brother-in-law are sitting on the living room floor trying to assemble an IKEA shelf. My son is beside me watching cartoons and keeps telling his mother and uncle to shh, and my brother is in the kitchen washing dishes. This is a life that people want to see destroyed, taken away, and converted. This is a life I am so grateful to have, and it's filled with people that this world is lucky to have on its surface. I haven't told my brother that our mum tried to call, and I don't want to. I don't think there's a point. I just want to spend as much time and energy as I can trying to love my brother, my family, my small little slice of bliss. This is my heaven. This is a life I will proudly defend against hate and intolerance and bigotry. I'm so lucky to have this life, these people, and this happiness, and I will never stop fighting for it. And that concludes it. That is the end of this truly sad but beautiful story, I guess, depending on which way you want to look at it. Look, it's undoubtedly an amazing story, but I don't know, it just fills me with sadness. All of this could so easily have been avoided if your parents weren't bigots. It's as simple as that. Like, don't get me wrong, it's amazing that after all these years you come back together and now you all have a brilliant life and you have your family back together, obviously without the homophobes. But it's just so easily avoided if these two people hadn't been as bigoted as they are. It's insane. Nonetheless, amazing story. Thanks to OP for sharing it. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want more from me, please do subscribe to this channel. I post here daily. And if you want more right away, I've chucked another similar story up on screen. With that all being said, I'll see you lot tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.